friends, I have a question. Who doesn't like ice cream? I can't even imagine. So when it comes to painting it, if you're gonna do one scoop, you might as well do 3. And that's exactly what's happening in this video demo. It's going to be a triple scoop of colorful fun. Bright flavors and juicy watercolor details and a cake cone. Oh my gosh, I love cake cones. It's what makes the whole thing feel like summer in a painting. This one's truly a kaleidoscope times 3. So grab your paints and let's dig in or dive in to the triple scoop ice cream cone. Okay, so here we go, a triple scoop. It looks delish. I am ready for it. It's getting hotter and hotter here and ice cream sounds super good. Alrighty, let's begin. Let's dig in or dive in. This ice cream looks so great, this triple scoop. I'm gonna call this chocolate chip, I'm gonna call this strawberry, and I don't know about the green. Is that matcha or mint or pistachio? I don't know. That's what's in the reference photo, and so those are the colors that I'm gonna paint. You are welcome to use any colors. If you want Smurf ice cream, or you want Cherry's Jubilee, or some caramel swirl, whatever you wanna do is entirely up to you. This is what I'm gonna go with here though. I'm gonna use a number 8, size 8 round. This is my favorite. This is silver black velvet. Comes to this perfect point, which is why I love it so much. Can pretty much do the whole painting in that except for some of these little details. And I'll switch to my trusty number 2, which is a teeny tiny little thing that helps me with all those teeny tiny details. Okay, so I'm going to leave the reference photo taped to my artboard here. I've already done my sketch, and it could be done freehand because it's just some simple circles, and they're not even full circles or perfect circles. This is just a half circle up here, and this is just basically a triangle with a squared off bottom. So I did it freehand. I hope you will give it a go too. If you don't want to or don't have that confidence to do that, then you could trace it by using some tracing paper such as this and turn it dark side down. Place any your reference photo or whatever size you're going to be making yours. Mine's a 5x7. Place it on top and then simply draw around the lines that you see. If you don't have any of this fun, great paper, then you could turn the reference photo or whatever size over, color in the back side with lead from a pencil, just a regular pencil, just color it all in, and then put that on top of your watercolor paper and trace around the image that you see, and that graphite or that lead will transfer to your paper. I'm going to go ahead and actually erase some of these lines. I think they're a little too dark for me, so I'm using my kneaded eraser. This is such a great, fun tool. Also helps with stress relief. And then I'm just going to roll it over the lines so they're not quite so dark, because especially up here on the this vanilla ice cream, that's going to be, we don't want those lines to show through our painting. So I'm just going to take up some of that color pretty much everywhere. And you don't have to scrub it. You can just dab it, roll it, and then that lightens up all those lines pretty well. And then you just knead it back into the eraser and it's ready to go, nice and clean for the next erasure. Okay. We're going to start with wet on wet. So taking that number 8 size brush and just with clear water, I'm going to paint in this top scoop of the chocolate chip, trying to stay inside my pencil line, even as faint as it is, because if we do, then we could always erase it after. Painting over the line, a little more difficult. And then here on my palette, I've already gotten a little bit of yellow ochre, super watered down so it's nice and pale. And then I'm just going to drop it in so that it's movable. I'm just going to kind of spread it around. And remembering that watercolor dries way lighter than you put it on. So this is going to be even lighter when it's all said and done. And just leaving that to dry. And since it's at the top, we can move down to the bottom, the cone, kind of similar color, but I'm going to take some yellow ochre and maybe some little dab of orange. Yeah. And then maybe even some burnt umber, some dark brown. Just give it a little more depth. Or that, yeah, I like that. That's kind of that cake cone. My favorite's cake cone. They're just easier to eat, although I know there's a big debate on the whether you should go with a waffle cone, sugar cone, I guess it's called, or cake cone. Those are the two options. Some of them look like waffles. There's even a hint of some of the waffle squares on this, but I don't think I'll put them in. So we're just going to start right up here in the corner under that strawberry scoop. Bring it down all the way across, and then it's very dark under here on the other side as well. This is the shadow side, so might want to add a little more there. Just bringing it around, and then you can bring that into, whoa, got way outside my lines there. We'll clean that up. But you're just gonna bring it in towards the middle. There's a definite highlight here, so we want to leave that the lightest value of all. So I would come down all the way down my cone so I can see it. We're just color mapping right now, putting the colors in where we want them. And then you can leave that, rinse off your brush, maybe dab it on your sponge or paper towel and just lightly pull some of that color down over that highlighted area. Yeah. So in order to move on, I just used my hair dryer to dry this first layer so that we can come in and do these two scoops. If you've got a hair dryer heat tool, that's the best method to make it fast, to let it dry or make it dry fast. So coming back to the scoops, I'm going for this strawberry one. So I'm just going to take some Alizarin Crimson and really watered down, again, just the foundation layer. And I'm gonna make it darker. The right side is our shadow side, so I'm gonna try to concentrate the color on that area. And this is wet on dry paper. And it's also a little darker down here where it meets the cone. And we'll go in later, of course, and really make those shadows nice. I'm just gonna rinse my brush off now and just soften these edges, because this part over here on the left is really in the light. The light source is coming from that direction. So it's the brightest, the lightest. So I'm just gonna kind of push some of that paint over to the right side and leave that just nice light pink. And because it's wet, we again need to let it dry or make it dry. So I'm gonna take that hair dryer to it and be right back with you. Okay, 2 scoops done. Let's move on to that green, whatever flavor that is. I haven't decided. I love mint ice cream, so maybe that's what it is for me. Maybe you like pistachio or matcha. I like matcha tea, green tea ice cream too. It's good stuff. So I'm just mixing up some, again, very watered down, very pale, and I'm using Sap Green because it does look warm. It doesn't look exactly cool like a mint chip. And it's going to be the darkest right next to the strawberry one here. So I'm going to go ahead and start there, even just dropping in some more darker values or tones, and then spread that out. This area right here looks the lightest to me, so I'm going to avoid that until the end and just use whatever paint is left on my brush. And remember, they don't have to be perfectly round circles. Whatever kid has served it up, you know, could could be a little wobbly. But just to differentiate, I'm gonna pick up, I got something on my brush. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of that green and put it right along the red. Let it blend in because my paper is still wet enough I can do that. And there we have our first wash. That's basically all it is. And we'll let it dry or make it dry and come back and start in on really making it look real. We can work a little bit on the cone now, and I'm gonna just take that same orangey golden color, but I'm gonna concentrate over here now. Really, actually I don't have enough paint there. I need to mix some up. So it was yellow ochre, a little bit of orange. That's too much orange, so it's always something when mixing. It's a finessing of the colors, and then a little bit of that burnt umber. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so then I'm going to come in under this darkest area right here under the green scoop, heavily concentrating it there. Remember, it dries lighter, so don't be afraid. Then there's a thin line here. And again, this line isn't straight because the ice cream is overlapping it. And then a little bit of darkness over here. And then I'm just gonna clean off my brush, and with a dry, thirsty brush, I'm just gonna take that wet edge that we just painted, it's the wet edge, and soften it out a little bit. Bringing it down. You can even come under here. This is that ridge. And that's going to be our only hard line there. And then there's a shadow under it, but I just want to soften this up a little bit. So instead of just pushing the paint, continuing to push the paint around, I'm just going to bring it together. Like that. I'm going to soften up these. That's a hard line at the bottom, and also right along here, but it's too wet to distinguish that right now. So we'll let that be. And the cone isn't perfect either, just like the scoops are not going to be exact geometric shapes. So let's let that dry for now. I'm going to come up and do a little bit more on the chocolate chip scoop. And for that, I'm going to take yellow ochre by itself. And let's just come in and see what will happen if we just put a little bit of it here. Then rinsing the brush off, and then we'll just kind of move it around a little bit. That's definitely a shadow there, but it's not everywhere, and you can just kind of make whatever patterns you want. So I'm just kind of picking it up from that area and taking it elsewhere. It's usually darker or some shadow whenever things are touching other objects. So wherever the scoops touch each other. And I think that's about all I'm going to do right now on that one. So it's just starting to give it a little bit of texture, and that's looking a little more real. When that dries, even more so. We can do the same thing in the green and the pink while that's drying because they're not touching. So I'm gonna go with the pink first, and it's just the exact same color, and it's just pure color. I haven't mixed it with anything. It's just Alizarin Crimson, straight from my palette. And then I'm going to, yeah, I'm gonna do a little wet on wet here. So I've rinsing off my brush. I've decided against that, going with wet on wet. And just with plain water, I'm just gonna put some here in the pink scoop, just so that it's got a nice sheen to it. If you tilt your head, there should be no puddles or pools. We don't want it drenching, we just want it glistening. And so if you got too much, you can always dry off the brush and kind of pick up some of that too. And now I'm going to pick it up the I can't even talk, the Alizarin Crimson, and just come in and with pretty much just pigment on my brush, do the same thing that we did up there, but just give it some gentle shapes or direction. It's definitely going to be darkest over here. And that kind of bloom, or the way it spreads out like that, that's gonna work in our favor for the texture of the ice cream. So in that case, it's not a mistake. And we can, yeah, let's just leave that as it is for now, and we can come back in and of course refine it some more. Okay, now for that green scoop. Again, more pigment than water, but same color, just one pure color, and that's the green. I'm using Sap Green, but maybe you've got a tree green or a mint green, whatever you want. And I'm gonna do it this way, wet on dry, and just kind of create some of those lines that I see. And these will be hard lines for now, or starting out that way. Kind of mimicking this, maybe too wet. The pink is still too wet over there, so I'm gonna stay away from that area. Just coming in with some lines wherever I see them. I'm going to leave that alone, and with my clean little brush, I'm just going to take out some of that that's bled over, some of the green that's bled over into the pink. Not a big deal since they are complementary colors and we're going to make that a shadow area anyway, but I didn't want it to go too far. So just pulled that out with a clean, dry brush. Now that we have these dark lines in here, I'd like to soften them, and the dark lines would be under. That's the shadow part. So I'm just wanting to soften this top edge if I can. Just so it doesn't look so hard. Okay, we'll leave that alone for now. I'm gonna make it dry with my hair dryer. Okay, let's go back to the cone and start to put in this line. I'm just gonna use the same color, but maybe more of the paint than water to just show us where it is. Like that. This is kind of lost its squared off area, so I'm gonna bring some of that down, and maybe that will help. And all this is in, it's got a nice shadow here, this whole side. So I'm gonna make that a little darker. And just drying off, or rinsing and drying off the brush lightly so that we can just come in and soften the edge, or edges, both sides. Take that all the way out to that edge. And that's starting to show some dimension. And same here, just slightly soften it up. Okay, now all of our scoops are dry, so I want to come back and start again. On this one, it's yellow and then just the white of the paper, which is a little too stark for me. So I'm going to move to my number 2 pencil, that's what they call it in Spanish, pincel, paintbrush, and grab the yellow ochre, just pure yellow ochre, but really watered down, nice and pale. And then I'm just going to try to do a little bit of a dry brush. So just a light wash over the whole area. You might even be able to hear that. I feel like I picked up some pink somewhere. So I'm just gonna dab it with my paper towel. And we can do a yellow wash, clean wash over it later. But that way it's not stark white as the paper, because it's actually yellow, vanilla colored. So I'm going to make sure my little brush is super clean. Doesn't have any other colors on it. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the green. But first I'm gonna add some dark hard lines, taking the paint right out of the palette and then just coming in with some scratchy kind of lines. And now I'm also going to go super dark over here by the red scoop or the pink scoop. Just dotting it in. A little bit here too. And where I see a little bit here. Okay, then I'm going to clean off that brush and take that wet edge that I just painted and just soften it up. Same down here against the cone, just softening it up a little bit and just trying to move in the direction of the scoop, circle shape of the scoop. just let that dry for now. And because it's touching the pink, we're gonna have to make it dry, or let's come down here and do the some more work on the cone as that one's drying. So here I'm gonna take a little bit darker now. I'm gonna mix in a little bit more of that burnt umber with the cone color. And I'm gonna make that hard line. All the way across and also down this side. Adding another layer of that shadow under it, I think. And then just taking that wet edge, pulling it down a little bit. Same here. Giving it a little thickness of diluted or pale watercolor. And then with the thirsty brush, just pull it all the way down, let it blend softly. Just so it doesn't look like a water line, right? We can take some more. And it's scratchy, so you can dry brush it, meaning on the side of the brush. You might even hear the metal part of the brush where it hits the bristles scratching on the paper, and that's fine. That's gonna give it that nice painterly look. Just always softening those edges. Except this one, we definitely want to distinguish it. So we can do a nice light line, but showing that shape of the cone. And this down here as well needs to be a nice, precise, sharp line. All right, let's leave that alone. I'm gonna take the heat tool to it, and we'll be right back to do some texture in the pink scoop. Okay, just like we did with the green and the yellow, let's take that Alizarin Crimson color, mainly pigment, more paint than water, and make some of these dark areas. And again, like here, I think it doesn't have to be precise exactly like the reference photo, but we've got a good start on it here. So I'm just going to, again, do some truly hard lines, but nothing in a particular shape or size, just randomly. But I am going to try to go with the shape of the scoop, so it's going to come up like that. And maybe this one comes over. Some are thicker, some are globbier, like this one. You can use that. Lighter, thinner. Definitely here, I want to take a strip of just the pink all the way down that where it meets the green. And there's some little bumps here. And then that line, we don't want it a stripe like that, so I'm going to soften up the edge. Again, just with a damp, thirsty brush. Taking the outer edge. And we can do the same thing with just a little bit of the Alizarin Crimson on your brush. Use the belly of it and dry brush it That's giving it some really nice ice cream-like texture. I'm going to do that same thing, the dry brush with the green, and it's just a dab of the pigment, but on a nice dry brush. Mine might not be even. Mine's not dry enough. Let's see. Ah, too much, too much. But we can make it work for us. Just scooch it around. Or we can always use our paper towel and blot some of it up. All right, so let's think about the chocolate chip one now, and doing a little bit of that dry brush. Although I do like the texture in this, it's not very dark, so I can't really tell, and maybe the chocolate chips will help it pop. But let's try doing the dry brush technique here with some yellow ochre. So just getting my little brush nice and dry, and then just dipping it in a little bit of the yellow ochre, and maybe even dabbing it again. And I'm just going to scratch it in a couple of places. And I'm good with that. Okay, so we're about ready to finish this, and what's left is the chocolate chips. So I think that's going to be dry enough. I'm going to take just pure burnt umber for the chocolatey brown color, and just make random triangles, or they're odd shapes. Sometimes chocolate chips are square, sometimes they're rectangle or whatever. I'm just going to take heavy pigment and make a couple of random triangles or dots, or whatever you want to call them. I'm not going to follow the reference as to the exact location of these chocolate chips. I'm just going to put them wherever I want them. I do like this idea of showing part of one on the side there, and maybe even one behind the red, coming out of the red, or the pink scoop. Nice and dark, but no particular order or location. I think I'll put one up here, maybe even sticking out. That needs a little more paint so that it's real looking. And maybe one down here. Okay. Yummy. Looking good. Hey, I think we have been served our triple scoop. Now, and so that it doesn't look like it's just floating in space, we should do some kind of background, but maybe sprinkles or splatters are more appropriate for this particular subject. So what I did is I printed out a reference photo this size, not this size, and cut it out so I can make a little mask for the ice cream cone. So I can put it right on over that. I think my chocolate chips are definitely dry now. That way, none of the splatters will get onto our actual painting, just a little bit around. And they could be splatters like tapping a really wet brush all over the place, or you could make sprinkles, falling from it, or you could put it on a table. There's a lot of different kind of backgrounds, but for ease, I think we will just go with some splatters because it's just fun that way. So get a super sopping wet brush, and I'll start with the pink and digging right into the palette, getting a lot of that paint, soaking it up into that saturated brush. Nice and wet. And then with your other brush, you're just going to hold it over the paper and give it some wax until some of those splatters come out. All right, I'm going to stop there because, and I'm going to rinse my brush, because what I can do is with a super wet brush that could drop, you could even just touch some of them and they'll expand go in different directions. You could even pull it just to give it a little bit more interest, so they're not all just little tiny dots. And then we can do the same thing with the green. And that's a super saturated brush, and then lots and lots of pigment into it, soaking up the pigment in that saturated brush. And then take another brush and give it some wax there. And I think I'll just leave that. I am going to go ahead and get my brush nice and wet and see what happens if I drop some water. Not everywhere, just giving it a little bit more interest. And we'll let that dry, or make it dry, and take off that mask and see what we got. Okay, I tried the hair dryer and it blew some of those sprinkles and splatters all over the place, but that's all right. So mine's not completely dry, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the tape off so that we can see the real thing without the blue outline, which somehow detracts from it. And there's nothing more satisfying than taking the tape off of the painting. And if you have trouble and it starts to rip your paper, just take that hair dryer or the heat tool and give it a shot of that heat, and it should come up much more easily without ripping in the paper. Oh, it's cute, cute. I think I know what I'm having for dessert tonight. And there we have it. The triple scoop. I love it. Well, thanks for painting along with me. I'd love to see your triple scoop. So share your painting or tag me when you post it, if you post it, and tell me what your favorite flavor of ice cream is, or what flavor would you paint if you were doing another painting. Until next time, keep your brushes wet and your colors flowing. See you again.